Hello and welcome. After about 5 weeks of being in the city, I finally managed to find some trees and nature. I took a bus here. Well, actually, no, I didn't. I tried to take a bus here, and then the bus driver stopped in a small town like 15 kilometers away from here, and he didn't speak any English. I didn't speak any Turkish, and so I was kind of just sitting there. Like, he left, and I was just sitting on the bus. I assumed he was going to come back. Eventually he came back with a lovely gentleman that took me to where I needed to go. Well, actually he didn't. He took me somewhere else. But the place that he took me was even better than the place I needed to go, because he took me to this like little eco village thing, and there's a person there that speaks English. So now I'm not too far from there, and I'm just going for a walk. It's been a while since I walked. It's quite high up here, so there's snow on the ground, which is really cool. So I'm gonna go find somewhere to sit down and talk to you about a thing that I've been thinking about. Right, be right back. There's so many trees. It's great. I love it. So on the way up here I was doing some thinking, and a thought that came to mind was the idea of being good enough. Or not being good enough, or am I good enough? Or is my work good enough? Is my hair good enough? The point is like that phrase, good enough. And it's interesting to contemplate, where does the whole idea of good come from in the first place? In order for good to exist, there has to be, like, someone has to have decided that something is good. And what I think is good is different to what you think is good, and what she thinks is good is different to what that other person thinks is good. So we got a whole bunch of people thinking one thing is good, and then a whole bunch of people thinking that thing that the other people thought was good is bad, which makes nothing really good or bad. So if nothing's good, then how can anything be good enough? What are you comparing the thing that you don't think is good enough to? You're comparing it to some other person's idea of good, or your idea of good, which is effectively no more important than someone else's idea of good, because they're all just ideas floating around. And at the end of the day, I'm me, that's a tree, and that's simply that. I mean, to say that's a tree even is like, that's almost going too far, because yeah, humans have called it a tree, but it's ultimately just a thing that's growing here in this magical earth, within this magical universe, just as I am, just as you are. So the whole idea of good enough is just laughable. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, you're not good, let alone good enough, but you're not bad, because there is no good and there is no bad. There's just is, and then you have your meaning and your perception that you as a human give everything. So if we were to apply this to, you know, our human lives, as most of us are trying to do, we walk around doing our things, we go to work, we have friends, maybe family, friendships, relationships, all of these things. We bake cakes, we sing songs, we make weird videos. If you can just do the thing and then appreciate what the thing turns out to be, then you don't have to deal with the whole, oh, it's not good enough. Because you're never good enough. You can't be good. You couldn't be good enough if you try. Like, you couldn't. That doesn't even make sense. You couldn't be good if you tried, because there is no good. So how could you be good enough in the first place? Just do things, and however they turn out is how they are. And that's pretty perfect. I mean, how could it not be? Like, it's there. Like, everything is just here. It's all there. And I'm here. And you're wherever you are. The whole idea of what you think is good or bad is completely based on your perception of something else, which is, in a lot of cases, not even going to be your perception. It's going to be the perception that was imposed upon you when you were socialized or conditioned in your upbringing. So half the things that you think are good aren't even things that you think are good. But then beyond that, nothing is good. You just got a bunch of things, and then people put labels on them, but really they're still just things. They're whatever they are. And so you're trying to compare one thing to another thing, but everything is its own unique thing. Maybe they have some similarities, but everything's perfect in the way that it is, because it is its own unique thing. Whether you decide to call it good, bad, or otherwise doesn't really matter, because the thing is still right there in front of you. And who decides whether something's good enough? Like, I think it's pretty much down to the person perceiving whatever the thing is. So that means that I get to decide what I think is good, or you get to decide what you think is good. And with that knowledge, you can just decide everything is good. If you want to go with the label of good, but you don't need that word at all. You could just decide, oh, that thing, right where it's at, that's pretty great. Like, I don't need to do anything about that. I don't need to compare it to anything else. Ram Dass talks about trees and how we look at trees, and there's weird trees and there's really cool looking trees and there's this tree and there's that tree, but you don't get all angry at the weird looking tree. You just think, oh, it's a tree. You can apply that to everything. Like, it's not any less significant of a tree because you think it's weird. It's just a different manifestation of life, and that's what everything is. So I don't intend for this to be like a nihilistic type conversation about how you're never good enough and so you should just stop and give up your life and blah blah blah. It's more so that you don't need to put yourself under such pressure to be what you think you're supposed to be, because you are already what you're supposed to be. Each breath, each moment, everything that you do is exactly the thing that you are doing and what you need to be doing. And there's no point in projecting onto something else like, oh, when I get to look this way, then I'll be happy, or when I get this thing, I'll be, more fulfilled, or when I have a partner, I'll be just magically uplifted forever. It doesn't work that way. So just be cool with what you got, where you are. And I don't mean this in terms of material things, I just mean in general, in life. Like, wherever you are, just be there, and until you're not there, just enjoy it. Even if it sucks. Like, a lot of stuff sucks. Like, it sucks to be sad sometimes, but it's okay to be sad. So if you're sad, be like, oh, it sucks, I'm sad, but I'm sad, so may as well make the most of it. So go easy on yourself. Do things. Don't be so focused on the outcome, and just be. Okay, so the irony is that I definitely don't think that this video is good enough to put out. But hey, that's what we're all here to do. So, thank you for tuning in, as always. I am gonna go and navigate my way out of this forest. There's just fallen trees everywhere. I didn't really get to go very far at all. But anyway, it was great just to kind of bathe in the nature. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.